Guys, it is 12:35. We might still have some people popping in. We've had that happen the last several webinars, and we'll continue to let them in as they're able to join us. But in the interest of everybody's time, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So thank you so much for everybody, our panelists, and for our attendees joining us for this fourth and final part of the Recovery Roadmap. Thank you to Christine Dean, who's on here with us. She was our board member that helped us pivot this series from what was supposed to be an in-person lunch and learn to a four-part webinar. I think these have been really helpful for our businesses, and our members have provided so much insight and great advice that is applicable, it's practical, and I'm hoping that that's what you guys are going to provide today, and I know you will. I'm Julie Blaylock with the Farragut West Knox Chamber, so I'm going to moderate. And just to quickly review the way this is going to go is we are going to let the panel introduce themselves, and then each panelist will get a chance to answer all 5 live questions. I encourage everybody who's on the webinar today to drop your name, business, and contact info into the chat. And if you have questions as they come up during the webinar, if there's something that you would like to see us address more specifically, if you would like a specific example of something that one of the panelists is talking about, don't hesitate to put that in the chat and we'll work those in. The time that we have should allow for just those 5 questions and for every panelist to have a turn. Please remember to put yourself on mute, panelists, if you are not the one speaking. And we should have a great webinar. This is being recorded, so we will post it later and share it. And then members of the chamber who have invested in us will get the packet, which has additional content and additional questions that each of the panelists took the time to answer. Plus, you'll have all their contact info in that packet for you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce everybody first. So with us, we have the Senior Vice President of Moxley Carmichael, Lauren Miller. So thank you, Lauren, for being here today. We have the owner of FASTSIGNS Knoxville, Daniel Ma. Thank you, Daniel. And then we have a twofer with the Farragut Press. So we've got Charlene Wagner and Michelle Hollenhead. Charlene is an account executive, and Michelle is a reporter and staff writer. So should be really interesting. We've got a lot of perspectives on PR today, and you should learn a lot. Let's go ahead and do the introductions, and we'll kick it off with Lauren. So tell us who you are, how long have you been with Moxley Carmichael, your background, and just kind of give us a quick get to know you.
All right, thank you all for having me. My name is Lauren Miller. I'm the Senior Vice President of Moxley Carmichael. We're a full service public relations firm located in downtown Knoxville. I have been with the firm for, it will be 13 years in August. And so I am originally from Oak Ridge, Tennessee native. I graduated with a degree in public relations from the University of Florida. Sorry guys, go Gators. And then returned back the summer between my junior and senior year to do an internship with Moxley Carmichael. And was very serendipitous that upon graduation, they were looking for an entry-level position. They knew me from my internship. So I started there August 2007 and have been there ever since, and really fortunate to work in East Tennessee and with Moxley Carmichael and with a variety of clients. You know, that's one of the fun things about an agency. I've worked with everyone from Pilot Flying J, so you know, big national company with travel centers, to and US Cellular, you know, a national cell phone company, to Young Williams Animal Center, a local nonprofit, Cherokee Distributing Company, a wholesaler of beer. So, you know, I work with a lot of healthcare clients as well. So there's just a lot of variety and a lot of interesting projects to work on.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. We're looking forward to having you. Moxley Carmichael does really great work. They represent several of our chamber members, and they are a chamber member themselves. So it's really, really great to have your perspective and your information and your knowledge with us. All right, let's go over to Daniel Ma. Daniel, tell us about who you are, how long you've had FASTSIGNS, and your background.
First of all, thank you, Julie, for the opportunity, and I love what the Chamber is doing through these webinars. I just think it's awesome that we've had this opportunity while we've been stuck basically either in our jobs or at home. We have this opportunity to meet. I've gotten to the point in the chamber where I'm sort of tired of saying the same thing, and I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing it. But we moved to Knoxville 3 years ago after we bought FASTSIGNS out. FASTSIGNS has been here in Knoxville for a little over 29 years, and we have thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the Knoxville community, but also being in this business. As you probably know, FASTSIGNS is a part of a large franchise. So we not only have the resources of being able to have the local clientele and people here in this area, but we also have the resources and knowledge across the world, since we are an international company. I was thinking and listening to Lauren over there, being a Florida Gator. We love Tennessee, but we are from Clemson, South Carolina. So we're big Clemson fans. So we'll have to throw a plug in for them. But again, thank you for this opportunity and for the ability to be able to meet like this.
You are absolutely welcome, and thank you for being here. You know, if you haven't noticed, these webinars have involved members, but also non-members. And so, you know, one of the chamber's goals through all of this craziness was to offer something valuable for any business, because we're all in this together. So thank you for that. All right. Last but certainly not least, Charlene and Michelle, will each of you please introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm Charlene Wagoner. I'm an account executive here at the Farragut Press. I've been at the press for 2 years, but I've been in the newspaper business for over 10. Originally from Indiana, so I don't have any rivalries going on here. I think I'm neutral, so that's good. In working with my accounts, I just really enjoy making sure that they know the best way to reach us and to get the most bang for their buck, and to utilize all the unpaid and paid opportunities to promote their business.
I'm Michelle Hollenhead. I've been here at the Farragut Press for 2.5 years. I actually worked for the West Side Story, which I don't know if any of you guys are from around here, but back in high school I wrote a column for them, and it has evolved down through the years to now it's the Farragut Press. So I've kind of come full circle to have, you know, my journalism career. I grew up here in West Knoxville. I went to Farragut High School. I love what I do. I've had community news in my blood. It's been most of my career has been in small newspapers. I worked at the Roane County News, the Morgan County News, and I worked at the Sentinel for 8 years. So I've really enjoyed being here and being back home and promoting all the neat things that are going on here in Farragut. So I'm just glad to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you guys so much. All right. We're going to go ahead and kick off with our questions. Once again, panelists, we ask you to try to keep your responses to right around 2 minutes. That'll make sure that we let every single panelist have a chance at answering each of the 5 live questions. And again, those that are tuning in, if you think of anything you'd like to see our panelists expand upon, drop that in the chat. I'll be watching it, and I will present that to them. All right, so we're going to mix up the order as we go. No particular thing. So the first question is, what's the #1 thing that a business owner or manager needs to focus on right now to prepare to promote and publicize their business? You know, Knox County got reopened for most non-essential businesses on Friday, May the 1st. And as the chamber, we were able to celebrate several businesses reopening, but some are taking their time. They're sitting back, and we think that part of that is to formulate a plan. So #1 thing a business owner should focus on now to prepare to promote and publicize their business. Let's start with you, Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Julie. As we all know, we got to have some form of a plan in some formation. But for us, and what we've been doing to help our clients, is that when we've dealt with some of the clients that are in the process of reopening, the first thing we've been asking them to do is to reach out to their clients themselves. Give them a call, find out how they're doing. Some may no longer be in business, but what we have found though is having that assessment of where they are as far as their business goes. It's really helped us to be able to target what we do and what we can offer. So I would say the #1 thing for us is to reach out to your clients and see where they are in the process of reopening.
Yeah, that's absolutely a valid point. Something we've been doing here at the Chamber, just touching base since we're all so isolated, or at least we have been. Let's take it over to Lauren. Lauren, what would you say is the number one thing a business owner should focus on now to prepare to promote and publicize their business as they're getting?
Yeah, I would add to what Daniel said in terms of communicating with your customer base. I think right now that everyone, said there was a little bit of fatigue when COVID-19 pandemic first started causing closures and stay-at-home orders and such, of everyone feeling like they got the email from anyone who had ever gotten their email address saying, here's what we're doing during COVID-19. But I think with reopening, it is important to emphasize, if you are going to be open, what your safety precautions are. At this point, it's table stakes, right? You have to be able to communicate clearly what the safety precautions and rules of your business are, whether you are open to the public for shopping, if you have limited numbers, capacity, if you're requiring them to wear masks, if you're only still doing a curbside or a pickup service. What safety precautions are you taking, and how will those affect how customers interact with you? Because I think that's also the frustration most of us are having, the uncertainty of, I just don't know what to expect. Everything's new, everything feels uncomfortable. So the more you can communicate and tell them what to expect so that they know they'll feel safe and they know how they're meant to interact with you, I think customers will feel more comfortable. Customers aren't going to feel comfortable if they feel embarrassed or ashamed because they show up and they're not prepared for however you're operating at that time. And I think another part of that is there's been a lot of discussion around essential and non-essential businesses, and there's the government definition of that. But in terms of how customers shop, essential and non-essential is very personal to each of us. Some people may find certain businesses very essential to their families and their lives right now that other people don't. So I think understanding what you offer that is essential to your target audience and communicating it in that way, and making sure that they understand that even though people are taking precautions, you might have extra safety protocols in place, what makes your services, your goods, your products important and essential to them, your target audience right now, and help promote that as you normally would. Why is it timely? Why is it helpful? Why is it just maybe fun? Maybe your target audience is someone who's just tired of being inside and needs a break and needs some self-pampering, and you're a salon and you can offer that, and that's okay. I think be authentic to what you offer your target audience and celebrate that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We've seen that awkwardness or uncomfortableness approaching businesses, where there's not appropriate signage. You don't know, should I go in? Do I call for my car? How do I do this? It's like we're all having to learn how to walk again in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think that's totally on point, Lauren. Okay, Charlene and Michelle, what's the number one thing that each of you would tell a business owner to focus on right now to prepare to promote and publicize their business through you?
Yeah, it's the information. It's making sure that you're out there. An important thing, I think a lot of people, when this first started to pull back different things, places they were expected. I would advise not to do that. People want to know where to look for you. They want to know how to get your updates. They want to know how to be prepared to visit your establishment. And if you're not in the places they would normally find you, then you're not easily accessible. Make sure you're utilizing those places you already are. Call your print advertising, call your radio advertising, and update them with the new information. Update that ad right now and have some ads ready to update in the future as things progress.
I think it's really important to look at the different avenues that are available to you to get the word out. I mean, of course, you could buy ads, you can call us, we can try to get something in free of charge, but there's social media. Social media has been so huge right now that that is a great way, I think, for businesses to get the word out, what their protocols are, what their expectations are, what your expectations should be. And And so much of what we do and what we have done here at the paper is all event driven. We're really all having to step back from that right now. What events are going to be allowed? When are we going to be able to have and congregate and have actual live events? So, I mean, as far as utilizing maybe a newspaper format, you know, let people know when you're opening. Let people know if you're not going to open. We've had several businesses, just like you said earlier, who've decided not to open right now. And that's fine, and that's totally appropriate for them. But let us help you get that word out, you know, instead of everybody just having to call a phone number. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways that I feel like people just kind of need to think about getting the word out to their clientele about what they're doing and maybe even why.
Inform the masses.
Absolutely. And because there are many masses out there,
Yes.
and they've got a lot of choices when it comes to how they get their information. Okay, next question. We're going to go back to Lauren on this one. What things should a business owner be lining up right now in order to equip their PR campaign? Whether they're using a firm like Moxley Carmichael or whether they're doing it themselves, which a lot of small businesses are. What's the top 1 or 2 things that they should be lining up right now to get that campaign ready?
Well, I think we've already touched on this a little bit, the importance of having a written plan. And I'm assuming a lot of businesses had marketing or communications plans that they probably had to adjust given the current situation. And so it would be time to freshen those up or start a specific reopening plan. Here's the thing. Our hope is that once things start to get back to normal, though perhaps a new normal, that everyone's going to be busy. The last thing you want to do when you're busy is pausing to figure out what's your next step, writing content for that social media post, calling the newspaper to find out about ad rates. If you line up all of those pieces in advance and you have content written that you can adjust, but is written in advance for a social media content calendar that gives some regular updates, as you guys know that you're going to be rolling out different products or services or reopening or changing your protocols. If you already have your ads updated or you know what your ad plan will be and you have that budget set and you can hit go on it real fast, now is a great time for staging, because the hope is if everyone gets back to a point where we feel busy, that you won't have to pause and worry about all of that prep. And you'll just be able to hit go. And that way also you're more nimble, because fact of the matter is there are going to be more curveballs. We don't know what those look like yet. We don't know if this is smooth sailing from here on out. So the more you can do in advance and have those channels ready to communicate with your customers and some of your content ready, the better you can pivot and adjust and talk to them in real time if there are more curveballs, which it looks like there probably will be.
Yeah, baseball season's not back in session yet, but we're all going to see some curveballs regardless, aren't we? We're just waiting for them. Okay, let's take it on over to Daniel. Daniel, what's the top 1 or 2 things that you would tell a business owner to line up right now to equip their PR campaign?
Well, first of all, let me just make this comment. How many times over the last few weeks have we heard when we talked about planning that, look, how do we plan when we're basically going from day to day? I mean, we have staff meetings and we come in and we say, hey, we would like to do this, but in these days that we're living in right now, it can become very difficult to even plan out more than a week, but you still have to plan. That's not an excuse not to. So for us, or for what I would recommend, is the first thing, as we've sort of briefly mentioned, is you got to let people know that you are open. And a lot of people that we've talked to is that they have got on social media, people have taken pictures of their staff and posted it on Facebook or other social media to let them see, hey, there are human beings there now. You know, and like for us, we're slowly reeling people in from home. Today, my graphic designer finally came back to the center. Yesterday, my salespeople came back in. So it's nice to finally see some people back in our center. The second thing is would be for us would be, then what are you going to do from a marketing perspective? We believe in doing the A-frames like out in the drive, in the out in the parking lot. Obviously, you've seen a lot of banners, and the city of Farragut has been awesome in them allowing these things to happen right now through this difficult time. So I want to give kudos out to them. And then the third would be the CDC regulations. You know, now you're back in, now people know that you're working, if you're going to let them back. And we have not opened our lobby yet, but it's coming and we're prepared. So when that happens, are we going to be in compliance with the CDC regulations? And I think that's something that you have to be thinking about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Michelle and Charlene, what's the top 1 or 2 things that a business owner should line up right now to equip their PR campaign?
Right now, you need to be thinking about how this impacted you and were you prepared? What a lot of us are finding right now is that we did not put the emphasis on our self-promotion, and we did not have good long-term plans for our business when this hit. This is the time. There are deals, there are specials, there are articles, there are features, there are highlights going on. This is the time to really put some emphasis on your PR and get with all of your mediums of advertising. Line up a good campaign so that when something like this happens, whether it's another wave of COVID or something else, you are prepared to call your people and just make adjustments to the ads and advertisements and signage you already have going. When you already have a focus on your PR, it's easy to shift gears, but it's really hard to start a bike rolling when you're going uphill already. So make sure you're just taking this downtime with your company to assign someone, visit and revisit your campaigns, make sure you have good budgeting items and good paid and non-paid social media, print, radio, signage, do all of it, a little of everything, so that you're seen by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think you can emphasize that enough. And so much of what we're all trying to do is just trying to figure out what the next steps are. And I think just knowing and establishing some relationships, I mean, that's just such a big thing here at the newspaper. I mean, I feel like we have really good relationships with our chamber. I feel like we have really good relationships with our government officials. I feel like that they feel like that they can reach out to us, but I just, you know, would want to emphasize at this time that people just need to, you know, just be aware of what's available to them and know when you're going to open, know what your steps are going to be, and get the word out there as quickly as possible.
Michelle and Charlene, I'm going to stick with you for just a minute. We had a question come up in the chat and I'll offer it to everybody. But because we're talking about newspaper, both ads and also stories, which Michelle writes, the question was, should businesses consider doing some ads or content that is not COVID related? Is that okay? Is the newspaper looking for stuff like that? What do you guys say?
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Definitely. I think we definitely need to think about other things. I was out Friday taking pictures at the Campbell Station Inn where they're doing all the work around it. And I told Sue then, you know, it's great to have a different focus besides COVID-19. So sure, I mean, not just as somebody who writes about it, but just I know our readers would love to see other things besides that. So sure, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And from an advertising standpoint, people are home now. Moms are now schooling their children, so they have a new idea about where can we take them, what are field trip worthy opportunities. There's all kinds of new adventures that are happening and new normals. And so if you have something to offer that maybe someone in the community doesn't know you do, or if you need to highlight something that is a business that's still maintaining landscaping, roofing, those kind of things, get that word out there. Your business is still going and people are sitting at home right now filling their time with things. This is the time for them to consider you.
Yeah. Awesome. Daniel, real quick, so we keep on time. Signage. Should businesses put out signage or do anything advertising wise that is not COVID related?
Yes, please. I would say so, especially if it has a positive spin to it. But yeah, I agree with the ladies there. Anything that's out there that's positive, that's community oriented, we've sort of taken a mindset that we want to reach out to our fellow business people and let them know, look, it's, as you keep saying, we're all in on this thing and we're all in it together. And if there's anything that we can do to help, please don't hesitate and contact us. And I would love to see great stories. And I know you ladies, y'all have already done that, but great stories in the newspaper right now and in the media, because as we all know of what we see on television and on the internet.
Okay, and Lauren, we didn't forget about you. What are you recommending for your clients? Can they put content or advertising out there that has nothing to do with COVID? Is that okay?
Absolutely. There, as the other panelists have said, there are a lot of good stories, products, services out there that are unrelated to COVID or that are continuing to be relevant despite COVID. And so we're encouraging that. I think that there are sometimes a fear people have that they might sound tone deaf if they're promoting something in the midst of a global pandemic that's not related. But I think right now what we can keep in mind, as long as what you're promoting is not at odds with safety precautions, and is sensitive to the fact that some people, the situation that your audience is in, that they might not be able to gather in large numbers and things like that. I mean, be aware of the environment and what you're advertising, but things like Mother's Day is Sunday. COVID or no COVID, everybody better be thinking about Mother's Day. Cards, flowers, gifts. Maybe it's planning a dinner out at a later date when you're more comfortable doing that. Maybe that means buying a gift card at a restaurant right now rather than going to that restaurant. But regardless, those businesses, those retailers, those restaurants have an opportunity to advertise right now because everybody should be thinking about Mother's Day gifts and around the corner, Father's Day gifts. And that doesn't change because of COVID.
Julie, if I could interject, y'all probably noticed there were a lot of graduation signs out in the neighborhoods, and it's been amazing the schools that have come. I have a daughter that just graduated from Farragut, and their administrators came up to our door, knocked on the door, went out, took pictures, and that was sort of their form. It's not the official, but it was their form of a graduation appreciation for the 2020 graduates. So I think that's a part of it, especially in my world, in the signage world. You're seeing those signs all over Farragut and in Knoxville.
Yeah, I think that was a great question from the chat, and I think that's a great point. Our seniors, both college and high school, they missed out on a lot of the milestones, their proms, their graduation ceremonies. Yeah. None of that is going to happen. So, I think businesses that want to just offer that congratulations and community support, I think that's fantastic. All right.
And as Lauren said, Mother's Day is coming up. We're now seeing people, they're wanting to recognize their mother. So they're ordering signs now and putting in the yards and I've never seen that before. So that's something different during these times.
Absolutely. All right, let's go around to the third question. And this is an important one that we've talked about. Our businesses, small and large, are in very different places fiscally right now. Some have been blessed to continue to do well, and some have unfortunately seen some of the financial impact of this to their budget. So they're having to revise what they were previously doing. So how can a business owner or a manager determine, how do they figure out what works from a PR standpoint and what should they continue to spend their money on and budget for? Daniel, why don't you just pick that up and then we'll go on to the other panelists.
Well, what we're doing now is that we meet as a staff fairly regularly, and I like to talk to mainly our salespeople and just say, hey, what are you hearing? What's the feedback, and from talking with our clients. So we get a lot of feedback, pro and con, from some of the things and from some of the other businesses that we serve. And so we're sort of learning, because again, I don't think there's any expert out there that has all the answers to what we're going through. And we're taking it day by day, but we're learning through this process. The second thing for me is that I try to reach out to other owners in my industry and talk to them about, what are they experiencing, and try to learn what's the best that they're seeing out there as far as how they're dealing and where they would, let's just say if you had to ask a question now, where would you put those dollars? Because that's the most important question, your investment into this. So those are probably the two biggest areas that I receive help from and information from.
Great. Lauren, back over to you. How are you helping to advise clients on how to figure out what's working and what they should keep spending money on, especially if their budgets have shrunk?
Well, it can be different, obviously, for each business, and we want to look at a really tailored approach. But I would advise that this is not the time to, stick our heads in the sand. We have healthcare clients that have seen a drastic decrease in their patient encounters during this time, but have invested in promoting services such as telehealth appointments. And because they did that, they were able to make back some of that, some of those patient encounters via virtual appointments in the interim, and set themselves up for more success as people get more comfortable coming back to the office of having options of virtual or not. I think, we talked a little bit about the fact that if you have an opportunity to be reopened, to have welcome customers back into your retail space, you need to communicate that to them. Right now, there are a lot of people who might be willing to visit your store or your service, but they don't know whether or not you're open. And so this would be a good time to invest in communication strategies, in advertising where it makes sense to reach your target audience and explain that, because you're going to miss that captive audience who is looking for who is open right now. Where can I find these services right now? Because there may be confusion, or there may be other competitors right now who aren't offering that to them. So, and I think there are a lot of really good opportunities to use communications tactics that are an investment of resources, but not necessarily hard costs. You can pitch stories and events to the newspaper alongside paid advertising. You can use your social media channels without paying for advertising, just to do regular communication there. So you can prioritize investing some of your team's resources into some of those unpaid tactics right now, alongside the paid ones. And the last thing I'll say is I agree that surveying your customers is really important. If you're not already doing that, that's key. Being able to track both through possibly a tool on your website, through Google Analytics, through social media, how they're coming to you, where they're making decisions, how they're moving through the sales funnel, but also just asking them. At the end of the day, that works really well to survey customers and say, how did you hear about us? Did you see our ads? Did you see our story? And understand better what's working for you. I think that's a part that gets left out a lot, is really surveying and tracking and utilizing good analytics to inform decisions moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's incredibly important to really collect and look at your data to figure out what's working. And, if you have trouble with that, there are businesses or consultants out there like Moxley who can help you analyze that. So it's a good resource to look at. Okay, Michelle and Charlene, you guys are unique at the Farragut Press because you're a newspaper. And so obviously you do stories, just like Lauren was mentioning, that don't cost anything necessarily. And then you also do ads. So how do you guys, with both of those prongs, how do you help your clients figure out what's working and what they should continue to reinvest in and budget for?
I think the biggest thing is the relationship with the people that you have who have a dual process like ours. When people send me information for ads, I try to make sure that if there's a press release, that we get that to the editorial staff. We try to keep the editorial staff abreast of people that we know are opening, reopening, rebranding, what new things are going on, events, that type of thing. Because sometimes it's not necessarily a feature story. But it, along with 5 other companies doing something similar, make for a great package story. So the more that we know about you, the more we can communicate back and forth and do the best we can to promote your business and promote your activity in our community. Of course, if you need anything with specific verbiage, specific timing, you want to pay for that to make sure you get what you're needing and what you're wanting and exactly where and when you want it. But the more we know about you, the more we can cross-reference that and hopefully promote you in several different ways.
I will say that a new business is always a story. That is, you know, hands down, that's always a story for us, whether they buy an ad or not, whether they ever buy an ad or not. A new business in and around Farragut is something we want to know about and something we want to promote all the time. There was an opening of a business over the weekend, brand new business, and I'm real excited about it. I'm going to follow up on it. We've done a story on it. The Manly Salon out in Hardin Valley, they actually owned by a Farragut couple. That they opened Saturday, and you know, I mean, that's big news. That's a really a neat story, and you know, again, we don't expect you to buy an ad to get in the paper. That's not necessary. But let us know what's going on. I mean, I give out my cell phone number to people all the time. I'm more than happy. Text me you know, on the weekends, anytime. It's not just a 9-to-5 job, of course, and you know, just let us know and let us help you promote your business.
Another thing to keep in mind too is to ask the people you have relationships with what else their company has to offer. We do paid advertising, of course, but we also have advertorial sections that we do several times throughout the year. That may be something that give you an opportunity to pick the focus of what is covered on your business. With editorial stuff, as they interview and take your information and stuff like that, they put their own spin, they put their own focus on what they see as newsworthy and what our community is looking for. But there are opportunities for you to have a piece written specifically about the part of your business that stands out against other people.
Awesome. I think that's great information, because it seems like, you know, a lot of businesses that the chamber encounters, you know, they know the newspaper exists, they've heard of press releases, but they just don't seem to know whether or how to get a hold of you guys. So I think that's really valuable. Okay, question number 4. This one's about timeline. You know, especially with a lot of our businesses that are small and limited in staff and therefore resources, how do they best determine a timeline? And then how do they schedule promotional events, and how do they schedule publicity for their business? Let's take it back to Lauren for this one.
Well, you know, this can depend greatly on the business too, but I think this has to do with 2 things. One is your target audience. Depending on your business, you may have a very specific niche target audience, in which case you got to be realistic that you can only be sending them so many messages at one time. And so if you're stepping on your own toes to communicate with this target audience about different promotions, you're really actually diluting your own message, right? Because they're not focused on one thing, and you're not getting the value of frequency of promoting the same message, the same event, whatever it may be. If you're a business that has a few different target audiences, then you could try to start layering to communicate with those different target audiences at one time, with promotions or messages that are really tailored to each one. And even then, I would recommend trying to keep it as simple and streamlined as possible, because you're really going to get benefit out of each campaign and each promotion, because I'm assuming your target audiences, even though you might have them separately defined, are related. And so if you're a small business with limited resources, I would just focus on one thing at a time. I see businesses do that a lot, where they get excited about ideas and opportunities and end up pulling themselves too thin, trying to do too much and be everything to everyone, instead of focusing really passionately on one promotion or one message or one event that is more authentic to their business. And so I think it's okay sometimes, especially right now. I'm sure it's going to be tempting as things start to reopen, to, you know, be thinking of every opportunity to get your message out there. But I think that will be part of the challenge as well, as how to be strategic in when to say no and when to stay focused on your plan. It's okay to pivot and be flexible and take advantage of opportunities as they come, but it's also okay to say, that's a great idea, and maybe we revisit that next month or next quarter, but we already have our plan for this quarter and it's working, we're tracking it, it's going well, we're in communication with our audience. We don't need to change that right now. And I think that's important, is when to say no as often as when to say yes.
Very, very wise advice. I need to listen to it more myself because I think we definitely feel that here at the Chamber. Okay, Daniel, let's take it over to you. How about timeline? How do people plan their timeline in terms of how to schedule their promo events and their publicity, and how does signage play into that?
Well, I think Lauren has done a really good job of explaining it. I know that's more in her area, but in the signage world, we typically ask for them to come in. This is one that we like to do a consultation with them, where we can sort of do a needs assessment as far as, you know, what they are looking for. But as Lauren said, budgeting also plays a big part, especially right now when everybody's dollars are so tight. And then based on that needs assessment, then we create a plan. And usually for us, it's not too extensive. Usually it's for that one event. And usually we can handle that, you know, fairly easy. But now with the situation that we're in, we're actually being stretched a little more because, again, of the unknown of what's around the corner. But that's what we do right now in regards to the signage part.
Awesome. Okay. And then back around to Charlene and Michelle. How do you help businesses determine their timeline for scheduling their promotions and their events?
Well, for our unique thing, earlier the better, because again, as you send us information about your event, even if you're sending it to me as an account executive to start getting your campaign drawn up and start looking at possible special sections or target areas, I can be sending that stuff on the editorial, and they may have things that will be unpaid opportunities for you. You may fit into a feature story. You may fit into a collaboration of other things. So the sooner we know you've got something going on, the better we can service you with some extra additional coverage that will help move your advertising to a better level. And we as professionals, you know, in the PR, when you send it to us early enough, it gives us an opportunity to look at things that we have that maybe you didn't know about that this might be perfect for. You know, a special section, an event where we're going to have some signage or some programs, different things that we can use that for. So always make sure that you have good relationships. Again, I think that's the driving force of this. If you're going to have a successful PR campaign, you have to have some people in your pocket that you use, and you have to know them well, and you have to know what they have to offer for you and have a good relationship to ask how they can help you promote your campaign or your event.
Especially if you're going to have a story that needs to be in before the event, we need at least 2 weeks lead time on something like that. The newspaper business, I'm sure most of you guys are a little familiar with that, but it's still kind of antiquated. It's not the immediate media buzz that most people get now with social media. But you know, if we need to know something for a particular weekend, we need to have it to us to get in the paper the Friday before the weekend of the event. I mean, I can't stress that enough, because I can't tell you how many people will call us and say, oh, I totally forgot to call you, or wait till the last minute to call us. And we're not sitting here waiting to run out with our cameras and get pictures. I mean, we should be. If it was if something caught on fire, yes, we would be out there doing that. But if you've got something planned, please let us know just as soon as you possibly can, and we'll work with you every way we can.
Awesome. And I'm sure to everybody on the panel, none of you have ever gotten that last minute call, right? Where your customer's hair is on fire and you've got to drop everything. I see eyebrows raising and smiles, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, last question for live, and then if we have time, we'll throw in a couple other things. what does success look like to each of you? When you talk about promotions, when you talk about public relations and publicity, good publicity, how do you know you've done it well as a business? Daniel, let's start with you.
For me, it would be an improvement of relationships with clients and with potential clients, because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the relationship part, and being able to educate people about what you do, allowing them to know what we can do, because sometimes there's a misconception, about certain businesses. And then obviously the results that we want to see are more referrals and then sales. So to me, relationships then leads to sales and referrals. But that's the way I look at it.
Okay. Back over to Charlene and Michelle. What does success look like with public relations for the newspaper? How do you know a business has done it right and done it well?
Just like everything, your business, when it has a successful moment, it should have a balance. There should be familiar faces, return clients, return customers, people that you know have visited your door before and are in it again. There should be some new faces. You should have reached some new people. There should be some people passing the word about you. And a good, successful campaign means that you have a good turnabout of that, several different kinds of people, new, returning, and that you have the money to cover what you just did and reinvest for the next campaign. So you need to be thinking about when you're planning your campaigns, what am I hoping to accomplish by this? What am I missing in my business? What demographic is missing? And put a little bit into that area so you can see some growth and reinvestment.
Yeah, I definitely obviously agree with everything you just said, but also I see success for the businesses and the people that we work with when people keep coming back to us, and not just advertising, but coming back to us and coming back to the newspaper. That tells me right there that what we've done in the past has helped them, or we wouldn't see them again. So I mean, to me, that's what success looks like to me.
And I'm going to keep you, Michelle, for just a second. We talked about this before the webinar. But at the chamber, we often get the question of we learn about stories or things that businesses are doing. And we will pose the question, have you contacted the local newspapers? There are several, so we recommend them all, obviously. And they'll go, well, no, either I didn't think they'd want to hear about that, or I'm a little afraid of what they'll come out and say. They'll just twist it around. The media sometimes doesn't always have the best reputation. So how do you combat that? What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, we're unique. We're a community newspaper. I mean, we cover some negative things, and if some people aren't happy, I mean, we run letters to the editor. We cover comments at council meetings that people aren't real thrilled about. We try to get both sides, but for the most part, our owner, our founder, wants this to be a good, happy, positive newspaper. He wants to promote the good news, and I love that. I love working for a paper where people see us, and very rarely do people say, ooh, the Farragut Press. We get, oh, the Farragut Press, we love you. We love to read your paper. We're happy to see our picture in there. Very few people don't want their pictures in the paper. I mean, it is just night and day working for our paper, as opposed to like a big daily paper where people are muckraking, where people are looking for the negative all the time. We are totally not doing that. And furthermore, a lot of times what I'll do is I work so closely with our businesses. I want them to be happy with what goes in the paper for all the right reasons, not just to please them, but to put the best spin on their business. And I welcome input and whatever I can do. I mean, that's my job, is to be the cheerleader for the community. And I love doing that. I mean, that just nothing makes me happier. And I'm ready to do it with whoever I'm talking to.
Awesome. And if you guys have not had the pleasure of meeting Michelle when she's out on the paper trail, she is just fantastic. And I promise she is not scary whatsoever as a reporter. Okay, Lauren, coming around to finish up with you. What does success look like when it comes to public relations and promotions and publicity? How do you know when a business has done it right?
Well, I think everyone has heard me say this a few times already that, it depends on the business. And that's really true because I believe in tailoring a campaign and a strategy to an individual business and making it authentic to them. And I think that holds true with goals too. I know we all want to see return on our investments, and we all want to see it impact our bottom lines, right? That's the point. But if you think about it in this way, for me, if I say this weekend I'm going to clean my entire house, it may or may not get done. But if I make a commitment of I'm going to clean the bathrooms, and then next on the list is I'm going to clean the kitchen, and next on the list is I'm going to sweep the floors, I get it done because I have really concrete goals that I can see, I can track against, and they add up to something bigger than sometimes what are these really big nebulous, goals of I want more business. So I think it's important to really understand what that means for you. Does that mean, depending on your business, you might need, 2 more clients? Does that mean you need a lot more foot traffic? Does that mean that you want return business? Sometimes it can also be things that lead to clients further down the funnel. Do you need to increase the followers on your social media? And you're looking for a 10 to 20% increase in Facebook followers. And so you're going to do a campaign focused on that to have more eyeballs on your messages who could be converted to customers later. So I think it's important to think about, yes, we all do want to see success as a return on the investment, an impact on the bottom line, and positive visibility, right? That's what clients always say when they hire us is make me more visible, make me known. And that's important. We want you to have greater visibility and positive sentiment in the community. But I think it's important to have also some really concrete goals that you can measure against and work on incremental progress as well.
Awesome. Guys, you have done so great. We've got just about 3 minutes left. I'm going to give you each a minute. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to share or that you want to tell everybody, even if it's just thank you? Lauren, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was fun. I thought my fellow panelists, I learned a lot from you as well. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate both in sharing and in listening. But I think I would just share, I think this is a, we've heard it said so many times lately, unprecedented times, confusing times, and so on. I think customers are really understanding and forgiving of that, so now is the time to just communicate and be authentic, and everyone is going to understand if you have to pivot, if you have to change plans, if you have to add some protocols that might not seem most convenient for them. They're going to be understanding. They're going to appreciate your honesty.
Absolutely. Mama always said honesty was the best policy. Daniel, 1 minute, real quick. Any final thoughts, anything to share?
If I could encourage everyone, if you have time, just reach out to your fellow business person and just call them, email them, but mainly I would say call them. We've been doing that here recently, and the response of just those calls, people will just say, you know what, really, I can't use your services, but thank you for calling. It just means a lot for somebody to reach out. So I would just encourage everybody to do that. And again, thank you for this opportunity, for being able to be a part of this.
Absolutely. All right, Michelle and Charlene, you're going to wrap it up with us. Final thoughts?
Just thank you so much for having us on your panel. It's really nice. I know a lot of people probably don't consider us a real newspaper in a lot of ways, but I mean, we're free for one thing. We get free delivery, and but I'm just so thrilled to be able to share what we do know with folks, and maybe help us be a little less scary, help the media not be so scary to think about. And just, I mean, we're here for you guys. But Julie, I also want to say thank you so much for all that you do to support the businesses and the community here. I mean, it's just one big happy family, and I love how you lead us down that road. I really very appreciative of everything you do.
Absolutely. And thank you for having us and allowing us to show both perspectives of what we do. I have sat in on the other webinars and they have been phenomenal and extremely helpful. I would just reiterate what the other panelists said. Now is the time to reach out to your clients. Now is the time to reach out to those people that you have relationships with and submit. Tell people that they should be submitting information to their PR people so that, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't go, it doesn't air. But the more you submit, the more opportunity you have to be considered.
Absolutely agree. Well, guys, thank you so much. The Chamber appreciates your time because we had you do some prep work for this. So thank you. I know you're still very busy, all of you. And we will share your contact information with anybody that wants to have it. And this will be posted on our social media. So watch out for your faces going live. But thank you to everyone who attended. Again, members, you'll get the packet after this is over. And hopefully we will resurrect this webinar series when it's appropriate in another form and fashion. But thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. And let's move forward into the future together. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.